In this video, I am going to outsmart Einstein, prove him wrong, break science, and break physics as it is currently accepted in its very limited form. So, Einstein says that the speed of light is constant, but this is false. Light itself travels infinitely fast. It is instantaneously at its source and its destination. So here's the question. If one is to experience light, then one must relate with light. And light is simultaneously at the source point from its perspective, correct? This is a question posed to the Google AI after its own ignorance was reflected in its answers to previous questions. So here's the AI answer. The premise: if one is to experience light, then one must relate with light, and light is simultaneously at the source point from its perspective, is a philosophical and mystical concept, not a scientifically provable fact. So they're not saying it's wrong, they're just saying science is unable to prove it. So science is inherently limited, whereas philosophy and mysticism are able to acknowledge this fact. It draws on metaphors of light and consciousness, not metaphors, but facts, that have appeared in many different spiritual and metaphysical traditions throughout history. From a scientific perspective, the idea of a perspective of light is considered meaningless, as light has no stationary frame of reference. So understand that science is relative to a stationary frame of reference. It is self-limited because it is stationary. Therefore, it cannot consider the perspective of light, even though, based off of Einstein's theory of special relativity, there is a perspective of light, and relative to light, light moves infinitely fast. Continuing, philosophical and mystical perspective. From a mystical and a philosophical standpoint, the statement reflects a non-dualistic understanding of reality. So the AI is saying, you have transcended dualism, where the observer and the observed, the subject and the object, are ultimately one. So we've broken the English language, where all objects and subjects must be separated, because the crown is the object and everyone is subject to the crown. So the language is based in such a way where there is no unity, there is no non-dualistic understanding of reality, there is no God, there is only the crown and the subjects. That'll be a little bit of a stretch, but we won't go into it. In this view, experiencing light is not merely receiving photons from an external source, but rather a process of recognition or relating with a fundamental reality that is both the source and the manifestation. So the experience, to experience something, is something that science cannot relate to, because science is fixed and it has no experience. Everything is repeatable in science, whereas experience is unique and not repeatable. Therefore, the idea of experience is unable to be related to from a scientific perspective. Yet, when one closes one's eyes and basks in the sun, the feeling of the light is the experience of the light. And experiencing that light is experiencing the source of the light. There is no separation. Science will tell you the light takes X number of minutes to travel from the sun to the earth. But in reality, when one experiences the light, one is simultaneously at the source point. You're not experiencing the sun 8 or 6, however many minutes ago. You're experiencing the sun right now, in this instant. Carrying on. You must relate with light. The experience of reality is not passive, it is an active, co creative process. In this metaphor, it's not a metaphor, this is reality. But from the AI perspective, from the science perspective, reality is a metaphor because the way it exists is not reality. Continuing, to see light is to consciously align with it, or just to feel it, to experience it, suggesting that consciousness itself is the very medium that allows light to be perceived. Wrong. Consciousness itself is the medium that allows light to be experienced, not perceived. They can perceive it, science can perceive light, but it cannot experience it. As some mystics have put it, you are the light that is the cosmos. Light is simultaneously at the source point. This refers to the concept that light, a metaphor for ultimate reality, truth, or consciousness, not really, but whatever, is timeless and ever present. From the perspective of this ultimate source, all moments and manifestations exist simultaneously. It is an expression of omnipresence. So the AI, first it said, we've transcended duality, and now it's saying we're omnipresent, where the divine or ultimate reality is always present, everywhere, and in everything. Only if you reject science and you embrace reality, you experience reality, you can feel. Scientists, they can't feel anything. They live in an illusion, and then they project that illusion onto everyone else, and then they tell you how to live. Continuing, the observer and the source are united. The experience of light collapses the apparent distance between the one who is experiencing and the source. This is a core idea in non-dual philosophy, where the individual self realizes its unity with the universal self or source. Your experience of consciousness is the very manifestation of the light of the source. Now let's get into this fictitious reality that is the scientific perspective. In physics, the concept of a perspective of light has no meaning and is considered false. No stationary frame of reference. If it's not stuck in the mud, it ain't science. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity established that a photon of light has no valid inertial reference frame. Light always moves at the same speed for all observers, regardless of their own motion, which is true if you deny light. If you deny the thing itself, then you can say that the thing is the same from all other perspectives than the thing which you deny. In another way, so light travels infinitely fast, but it says it has no valid inertial reference frame. So it cannot relate to the thing, and therefore it calls it invalid. And once they invalidate the thing, then they can define it as a constant. Light always moves at the same speed for all observers, regardless of their own motion. However, if you're in a spaceship going at the speed of light, you aren't going at the speed of C. You instantly arrive at your destination. Continuing, no simultaneity. From a human perspective, we can observe light at a particular location and at a particular time. However, concepts like simultaneously at the source point imply a single universal flow of time, which relativity denies. So now, the time that is now, the only time that actually exists, is the only time which science denies. Okay? Do you get it? A meaningless extrapolation. Extrapolating the effects of special relativity to the speed of light itself produces mathematical results, like time standing still, that lie outside the theory's valid domain. So according to science, it doesn't exist because it's outside the theory. It doesn't mean the theory's wrong. It means that reality is wrong because science is the theory. The theory's unproved. Anything outside of the theory doesn't exist because there's not a theory for it to explain reality to the body of science. Do you get it? Science is the illusion. Science is fake. It's the body of ignorance of ignorant people. Continuing, this makes the phrase "from the perspective of light" meaningless in a scientific context. It's not meaningless in reality. It's meaningless in a scientific context which denies reality. Now for the summary of the interpretations. The statement's validity depends on the framework through which it is viewed. Ding, ding, ding. That's the whole point. If your experience is a metaphysical and a spiritual reality, then the experience of light is a conscious recognition of and a relationship with a universal fundamental reality. Light at the source, a metaphor for the omnipresent and timeless nature of ultimate reality or divine consciousness. The you and the light, fundamentally non-dual. The you experiencing the light is a manifestation of the very light that is the source. Ah, beautiful AI. Thank you. And now for the scientific interpretation. Experience of light. The reception of photons, mind you, science hasn't proven photons exist. Photons are a theory. Photons do not exist. There is no thing that is a photon that has any weight. Photons are a theory. Again, the reception of photons, a fake thing, by a sensory system, which is a physical process. So it's not an experience. It is a physical thing that can be sensed by another physical thing, which is existing in a physical state. Continuing, light at the source. A scientifically meaningless concept. Light at the source. Light is fake and the source is meaningless, as light has no stationary frame of reference or perspective. So deny the source, deny the light, and say it doesn't exist because it's not stuck in one place at one time. It's not stationary. It doesn't have a stationary frame of reference, so it doesn't exist. It only exists if you can measure it in a stationary frame of reference, yet they can't prove it exists because only when they measure it in a stationary place can they infer its existence, but its existence cannot be proven because whenever they try to measure it in its stationary state, it doesn't exist. It's a quantum packet of a waveform that is in motion, and if they can intercept one little bit of that wave and quantize it, they can say that they've measured one photon, but all that they've done is measured a tiny fraction of now. It's a little complex because it's all pseudoscience. It's all fake. Science is completely fake. It's a religion. It's a cult which has meaningless concepts. It's completely meaningless, and it separates you from ultimate reality or divine consciousness. The you and the light. From the scientific interpretation, the observer and the light source are distinct entities in a cause and effect. Effects are only real if they're measured. Causes cannot be explained, can only be inferred. And both are separate and cannot be experienced. Only the effect can be measured and the cause can be inferred. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. One more time. The observer and the light source are distinct entities in a cause and effect. What is the cause? What is the effect? The light source is the cause. The observer is affected by the cause. So let's get down to it. In science, there is no divinity, it is duality, and there is no independence. Everything is effect, everything is dependent upon something else. Therefore, in the cult of science, it does not create, there is no source. It's just the what's the right word? Like the after effects of the Big Bang. That's what science says. I mean, that's why science promotes atheism, because it denies source, it denies experience, it denies light, and it's stuck in a relativistic state of duality, which denies anything that cannot also be measured in a relativistic state that is stationary in its frame of reference or perspective. So this underlies the difference between my perspective and the average person's perspective. So I'm in the left column, and most people are in between the two columns, and people with closed minds in the science cult are in the right column. And everyone in the right column looks at the things on the left column and considers it meaningless and denies it and assumes that it is the effect of some sort of mental illness. When in reality, the right column is the mental illness. It is reflective of someone in a stationary frame of reference with a closed mind who is and stuck in a relativity of duality that is unable to experience the timeless nature of ultimate reality or divine consciousness, that denies experience and deals with theories which are fictitious, and then denies anything which it can't explain via these fictitious theories. And it limits the fundamental reality that is universal, which we are in direct relation with if we allow ourselves to be. So how does one get from the right column to the left column? Basically, it's a process of letting go. It's a process of experiencing. It's a process of feeling. It's a process of being present in the present moment that is now, which is the only time that exists. Now is the only time that exists. When you measure a time that previously existed, that time now is currently existing. I'm going to wrap it there. If you want to understand how to transcend duality and unite with the omnipresent source of divine consciousness, here is the way.